Dear students, we were uh, discussing regarding the evaluation of liver disease, and in the last slide we talked about the gamma GT and alkaline phosphatase in obstructive jaundice. As we know that gamma GT is located in the endoplasmic reticulum and in the bile duct epithelial cell, that is here. So it is less specific compared to alkaline phosphatase. This alkaline phosphatase is isos enzyme of alkaline phosphatase. It is found in liver, bone, placenta, small intestine in elderly patients and children and adolescents undergoing rapid bone growth. Evaluation of alkaline phosphatase and importance of subgroup of alkaline phosphatase, that is, if it is raised than 4 times the normal limit, that is usually seen in cholestatic liver disorders, infiltrative liver disorder, amyloidosis, malignancy, and rapid bone turnover like Paget disease. In bone disease, increased amount of bone isozyme is formed, and in liver disease, the liver isozyme is raised. In liver disease, alkaline phosphatase is less than 3 times, can be seen in other disease of the liver, that is non-obstructive one. In electrophoresis, it is in placenta and tumor, it is heat stable, and intestine, liver and bone, they are heat labile. Causes of raised alkaline phosphatase, that is raised alkaline phosphatase in absence of jaundice or elevated aminotransferase. The differential diagnosis would be, of course, early cholestasis, hepatic infiltration, that is tumor or any granulomas, malignancy like Hodgkin's, diabetes, hyperthyroidism, congestive heart failure, amyloidosis, inflammatory bowel disease. Tests that measures biosynthetic functions of liver, that is, the main is serum albumin, because this is synthesized exclusively by the hepatocytes and has got a very long half life of almost 20 days. So if a patient is having hypoalbuminemia, that itself denote that the disease must be more than 20 days durations, like in chronic liver disease or cirrhosis, where there is severe liver damage and decreased albumin synthesis. The other causes of hypoalbuminemia are protein malnutrition, protein losing enteropathies, nephrotic syndrome, and in other chronic infections. In chronic infections, the level of serum interleukin 1 and tumor necrosis factor cytokines inhibits the albumin synthesis. The serum globulins, on the other hand, are usually formed in the B cells. The alpha and beta globulins are formed in the liver, and gamma globulin, that is immunoglobulins or antibodies, are usually formed in the B cell. So the decreased albumin level occurs in cirrhosis, and in the cirrhotic patient they fail to clear the bacterial antigen that normally reach the liver through the hepatic circulations. This will cause increase synthesis of antibodies, that is increase globulins in the blood, decrease synthesis of albumin, decrease albumin level, and increase globulin in the blood, that will cause altered albumin globulin ratio, that is albumin globulin ratio is reverted. Normally the level is 1.2 to 1.5, decreased, that is less than 1, is found in malignancies, infections like HIV, intestinal disease, liver disease, and renal disease. Now, what are the role of coagulation factors in evaluation of liver disease? As we know that all coagulation factors are usually formed in the liver except factor 8, which is formed in the vascular endothelial cells. Otherwise, all the clotting factors are exclusively made in the hepatocytes. Clotting factors are usually having a very short half-life of few hours to days. So, the acute hepatic synthetic function can be checked by the clotting factors, and chronic level of liver function can be seen by serum albumin level. The most important coagulation factor in evaluation of liver disease is prothrombin time. It is elevated in liver parenchymal disease like hepatitis, cirrhosis, and in vitamin K deficiency in liver disease like obstructive jaundice, where fat soluble vitamins are decreased in the liver. In hepatic parenchymal disease, if we give additional vitamin K, it will not have any effect in the prothrombin time, because the acute disease in the hepatocytes itself, rather than improvement in prothrombin level in obstructive jaundice. Now, little bit about the bilirubin and its disorders. Let's see what are the steps in bilirubin metabolism. Normally, there is two type of bilirubin, that is unconjugated bilirubinemia and conjugated or mixed hyperbilirubinemia. The unconjugated bilirubinemia is because of increased bilirubin productions or decreased hepatic clearance. Similarly, the conjugated bilirubinemia may be because of familial defects in hepatic excretory function like Dubin-Johnson and Rotus syndrome. This is albumin, unconjugated albumin in the sinusoids. Increased bilirubin production is because of hemolysis or ineffective erythropoiesis. This unconjugated bilirubin is conjugated by bilirubin UDPG, glucouronil transferase, that is UGTA1, and after glucuronation, this is excreted in the hepatic bile. So, decreased hepatic bilirubin clearance is Crigler-Najjar syndrome and Gilbert syndrome. In Crigler-Najjar syndrome, there is almost 100% absence of UDPG enzyme, which conjugate the bilirubin to be excreted in the bile. That is, if it is 100% absence, that will be causing Crigler Najjar type 1. If there is 10% enzyme is acting, that would be Crigler Najjar type 2 syndrome. And in Gilbert syndrome, almost 30% of the enzyme is working. And here, because almost 30% of the enzyme is working, the patient will be having less raised bilirubin, routine liver function would be normal, and the color of bile would be normal or dark color. And almost all these diseases of the early age are autosomal recessive. Now, the decreased hepatic bilirubin clearance. This conjugated bilirubin is actively transported across the canalicular membrane into the bile. That is, inheritable disorders of bile canalicular function, that is Dubin-Johnson and Rotor syndrome. The gene is not typically known in Rotas, but in Dubin-Johnson it is ABCCA. Protein is MRP2. The clinical features in Dubin-Johnson is mild conjugated hyperbilirubinemia, otherwise normal liver functions. But here the liver is dark, pigment are seen in the liver on histopathology. In Rotor syndrome, it is almost same, but liver does not have any abnormal hyperpigmentation. Now we have seen the enzymes which are raised in liver disease. The next most important modalities of investigation is radiology and further advancement of radiology, that is ultrasonography, CT, MRI and radionuclide scanning. A classical plain X-ray of upper abdomen will show calcification within the liver. The most common cause of calcification is hydrated cyst, an old abscess, old granuloma, hepatocellular carcinoma, metastasis from mucus secreting adenocarcinoma or medullary carcinoma of thyroid, which can be seen in plain X-ray abdomen. In sonography, we can see lot of hemangiomas, which are well defined homogeneously hyperechoic lesions. We can also see hepatocellular carcinoma. They are hypoechoic, echogenic or complex. Liver is also a site of metastatic malignancies. There are multiple and hypoechoic lesions on ultrasound that are usually secondaries in the liver. These are all the secondaries, multiple hypoechoic lesions in the liver, that is secondary. Liver abscess is classically of two types. One is amoebic liver abscess and the second is thymic liver abscess. In India, we see most commonly the amoebic liver abscess. These are the hypoechoic lesions on the sonography. This is partially liquefied liver abscess. And this is reactionary pleural effusions in the same patient of liver abscess. This is pleural effusion. Hydrated cysts are multiloculated mass with daughter cyst in the periphery. They are the hydrated cyst. Fatty liver is also a common entity right now because of pandemic of obesity. On USG, this is seen as a diffuse increase in echogenicity of the liver. Cirrhosis, here the rough liver margins and cirrhotic liver tissues can be well appreciated in the sonography. The nodular surface and regenerating nodules are surrounded by fibrous septa, and we can see easily a lot of ascites in this type of patients. The endoscopic ERCP is also a procedure of choice. The advantage is we can take the biopsy from for the cytological and histopathological examination also. The therapeutic procedures such as biliary stenting, balloon dilatation of stricture and extraction of stone can also be done by ERCP technique. CT MRI is also a diagnostic in liver disease. We can go for biliary scintigraphy, that is HIDA scan. Percutaneous liver biopsy can be done to confirm some rare liver diseases. The indications are hepatocellular disease of uncertain cause, prolonged hepatitis with possibility of chronic active hepatitis, unexplained hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, hepatic filling defects on radiology, pyrexia of unknown origin, in staging of malignant lymphoma. The main contraindication for liver biopsy is significant ascites and deranged clotting factors, but still we can manage this biopsy by transjugular approach where the signs of bleedings are less marked. Clinically, this is the flow chart in the evaluation of chronic abnormal liver test, and by this we can go regarding the normal jaundice, least common causes of jaundice, autoimmune causes, and further rare causes of jaundice can be evaluated according to this flow chart. The rule of thumb is elevation of unconjugated fraction of bilirubin is rarely due to liver disease, and conjugated hyperbilirubinemia is almost always implies liver or biliary tract disease. So isolated elevation of bilirubin is usually hepatocellular pattern, and cholestatic pattern is isolated elevation of alkaline phosphatase. This is the differential diagnosis of jaundice by seeing the serum bilirubin, urine urobilinogen, SGOT-PT and alkaline phosphatase. We can diagnose whether the patient is suffering from primary liver disease, obstructive disorders, or neonatal form of jaundice. So, dear students, this was a talk on the evaluation of liver functions in patients of liver disease, and in the next class when we will go through the actual liver disease, we will see how these small things makes a lot of difference when we evaluate a patient of liver disease, and this liver enzymes and all ancillary investigation will take us to the further diagnosis and evaluation of the particular patients. So thank you for your patience hearing regarding the management of liver functions. Thank you.